Hello, everybody, and welcome to a Wednesday afternoon here on Kobold Press. I'm your littlest red dot, here with our Kobold-in-Chief, Wolfgang Baur. I am so glad to
Ooh,
see you.
I'm so glad to be here. Thank you, Dot. Thanks for bringing me in.
Yeah, because, we don't just get to bring you in any old time. Anytime we bring you in, it's because it's important.
Yes, very
It's
important this
so
time.
important this time.
Hmm.
Not that the other things aren't important. I mean, come on, we did get to interview Veronica Roth and Keith Baker in the same breath, so...
I think that was okay.
That seems like a pretty swell deal. But that means that if you're here, we're making some big announcements.
Yes, I'm always here with the announcements, the secret news, the stuff that's happening. A couple of people might already know about it because we
Mm-hmm.
did kind of put the word out there in the Cobalt Courier newsletter. But yeah, can I just spill it? I can
Spill
spill it,
it,
right?
say it, make it
Yeah,
happen.
no.
Throw those beans, throw them,
We're
Wolfgang.
doing it. We're launching something new called Campaign Builder Cities and Towns. It's going to be a Kickstarter in May. And I love this thing because it goes back to the earliest days of fantasy, which is world building,
Yeah,
cities like Greyhawk and Waterdeep, all that sort of classic stuff. And it kind of answers a question that our fans ask us all the time when we put out a new Kobold guide, like the Kobold Guide to World Building that you
mm-hmm.
talked about last week, right? Like you get Veronica Roth and Keith Baker talking about world building, but there's always some questions like, that's great. Now, how do I do that? Right?
Right.
Like,
Your essay's well written, but what does it
I'm
look like
totally
practically?
right. Like, it's inspirational and there's practical advice in
Mm-hmm.
those essays, but there's not a lot of crunchy number stuff. And Campaign Builder is our, how do I say this? It's our blueprint. We're making it crunchy. You say you wanted it for fifth edition. Here it is,
Right,
right?
right.
So instead of being universal like the essays or just to inspire you or to give you crazy great ideas like the guides to world building, um, this is kind of, yeah, it's a blueprint. It's a paradise for homebrewing, right?
Right,
It's like,
yeah.
let's do that. Let's build our own cities and towns, or let's make your cities and towns better. And
Yeah.
that's the big picture. And I can tell you why cities are awesome in fantasy gaming, but um, I mean, part of the proof is that everybody knows them, right? Like
Right.
everybody knows, oh, King's Landing, yeah, that's in
Oh,
Westeros. So
yeah, oops, that place.
I've
Yeah.
heard of it, right? Or Waterdeep. I'm pretty sure that's a big deal in the realms.
Right.
Or, well, okay, I'll toot my own horn. Zobek in Midgard, right? Like, yeah, that's kind of an important thing and a big part of those campaigns.
So I mean, it does come right out of the wake of this world building guide, which, by the way, everybody that has cracked it open has only had amazing things to say about it, which means that
It's
the
amazing.
information in it is solid and it's really good, and it's coming from some of the most important, I'm not even going to say designers, writers in the fantasy industry. I mean, Veronica Roth,
Oh,
for
yeah.
Pete's sake, right? So you've got
Yeah.
people that, like you're saying, have all of these good ideas. So this book is going to pull back that veil of like how to
Mhm.
use it, right?
Yes, it's going to take sort of a crunchy step by step. There's stuff I can't even talk about yet because we haven't launched it, but I've been looking at it and I'm like, okay, this is something that if you've never done world building, or if you've been doing it for years, you're going to go, oh, that's useful. I'm ripping that right off, right?
Yeah.
And oh, a table here. And so fantasy cities like are the heartbeat of some stories,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Eberron has, sort of a noir feel. Waterdeep has that high fantasy feel. Westeros, I mean, they're all very particular places, and that's what you want when you're running your own game, right?
Yeah.
You want that city to come alive. You want that town to be not just the magic shop or the tavern or where you buy your healing potions, but ideally kind of a little more than that.
Yeah.
Um, oh, I still want to spill the
I
beans on
mean,
some of
I
this
even
stuff.
think about, I love to play games that are set in really old worlds. And the thing
Yes.
about an old world is it only feels old when you have lost civilizations and ruins
Yes.
of cities and what's left of the people that were there. And so this is even a cool guide to like build a civilization that inevitably fell. Like, what does that look like?
Yes.
And now you're going through a lost civilization. You're like sorting out these. I recently got really inspired by this when I was on the D&D cruise. We were in Costa
Yes.
Maya, and we went and saw all the Mayan ruins. And I had what I can honestly say in my lifetime was the best tour guide I've ever had, because he was actually of Mayan descent
Right.
and knew all of the things. And so we were talking about all kinds of stuff. And one of the things he was specifically talking about are the buildings, and how it's a misconception that they built their buildings tall to get to the gods. They actually built their buildings by size to represent their status. Like, the taller your building, like, the more power that you had, whether it was political power or social power, or like, and I was like, man, that's a really interesting idea that is lost to this civilization that has been totally warped by time and colonization.
Right.
And I was like, man, what an interesting idea of like, how do we build great old cities that are now totally
Yes.
lost that you have to go through too? And I imagine all of this is relevant from this upcoming
Right.
book. Yeah.
Well, where it comes from, like, yeah, you can layer it. This civilization, you know, all that's left is the sewers they put in. This
Ooh.
civilization built the first set of walls. This civilization built the tall towers. And then it becomes this interesting melange. Well, all right, I'll go back to Zobek, although I could talk about one from the Shadowrun later.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm going to spoil some Shadowrun stuff here about a city, the Goblin City.
Yes.
But that's later. Zobek's the easier example because everybody knows it, right? So it was initially, it was a Fey city, right?
Right.
Zobek was a very small settlement that the Shadow Fey had. And then the kobolds came along and discovered there was silver to mine, and so they had a little settlement there.
Right.
And then the humans came along and made a deal with the Shadow Fey, and that changed the city, right? And so each of those groups knows things about the origin of the city,
yeah.
right? Knows where, well, not where the bodies are buried, but sort of, you know, why did we build the Kobold Ghetto in this section? Why do the Fae still keep an ambassador here? Why are the humans and the dwarves, you know, sharing the temple district the way they do? And so I love that old history of, well, it was that way 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago, and some of that still matters today. And that's mostly world building on the GM level, right?
Right, yeah.
And what's hard to do sometimes is to take that and make it relevant to the players. Like, okay, great, so there were Shadow Fae, why do I care, right? But having the right NPC, or sort of the right building that people say, why is there one elvish building in town,
right,
and everything else, right? Like, it's beautiful to sort of spark curiosity in your players. And part of what Campaign Builder does is like, well, here's some charts and tables and ideas about very crunchy specific elements that will call out your city in a way that will get players engaged.
I love this. I love this for so many reasons. As the forever GM, I'm like, this is a book for me. Like, these books are really for all of us because we all get to enjoy the beast. You know, campaign books are for all of us because you get to play the campaign, I get to plan it. But this book's really at the core and heart for GMs, I feel like.
Oh, this is very much a GM book. I mean, there's stuff in it for players that might be interesting, but, you know, in terms of characters and setting and how you think about, you know, thieves guilds, or what are the decision tree about high level, low level magic, or you know, government structures, what are your options? It kind of distills down, I don't know, 50 years of D&D and high fantasy world building, right? And says, here's a path, here's some things you should try.
Yeah.
And here's how to get stuff back on track if your players are running rampant. Like,
right. And I mean, a helpful guide, because, you know, sometimes when you're homebrewing something or you're making something up, I mean, I don't know about all of you, but I know for me, sometimes I'll get an idea. I was like, I have to build a whole city because I have an idea for a festival. And then you're like, then your players get there and they don't care anything about the festival that you've put together. They only want to go to the shopping district, or they only want to know about local trade. And you're like, I haven't planned any of this. So I imagine this book is also helpful for reminding you of the important things. Like, don't forget this, right? Can you answer for this structure? Or here's a table, like you said, to help you out.
I love the fact that, different groups are going to want different things out of it. DMs are going to want, I mean, we love the deep picture and the lore and the interesting NPCs. And of course, they're going to go visit this place. Um, but half the trick there is convincing the players that that's in fact what they want. That's more about running a campaign than building a city, but both of those are part of this project.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, you look back at like historical civilizations, right? Like
Yeah.
we talk about the Roman Empire, but it was really about Rome. Or
Right.
we talk about like the Greeks, but it was Athens and Sparta, right? Like the cities are kind of where the culture lives and the stories come from.
Yeah.
It's hard to think about the French without thinking about Paris, and it's hard to think of Britain without thinking about London. So
Mm.
if you nail it on cities and towns, your campaign gets I call it a compass or like a cultural touchstone. It's like if you know what the city's about, you may know what the whole kingdom's about.
Yeah, you might find out the important part of their like existence or their culture.
Right? And it doesn't always have to be the great big imperial capital. That's the other
Right.
thing I like, right? Like Zobek's not that big. It's
It
like
says cities
15,000 people.
and towns.
Yes. And the and towns part I think is important because everybody likes to go to the big city. But the world building around something like Zobek, it's a city, but a small one.
Yeah.
And that means it's a lot easier to threaten. Like, how are you going to threaten Rome? I'm going to march some elephants across the Alps. It's going to be a whole thing. And we're going to need to spend a lot of money on these elephants, getting them across from Africa. And it's like, okay, well, that's threatening Rome. How are you going to threaten, the tiny Sicilian village? Oh, we'll just ride a boat up onto the beach and let the Vikings storm it, right? That's easy. So towns are, I don't know, for me, towns are more fun because there are less NPCs you need,
Oh, that's
right?
true. Yeah.
And you can get invested a lot easier if it's just grandma and the shepherd boy and a couple of fisher folk. Like, the town's
Yeah.
got 36 people, and now what, right? Like,
I recently learned the term thwarp. There's actually
oh,
there's like a whole, I did not know this, y'all. This is, again, GMs, this is what we start doing our research. Towns, or gatherings of civilized humans have by size
or elves.
or elves, have multiple tiers of like what their living situation's called. So like it's a village, and then it's a thwarp, and then it's a town, I think was the order, I can't remember, but a thwarp is like a place with less than 100 people in it. I was like, what a great term.
It is. Yeah. And then there's stuff like Hamlet, right?
A hamlet, which is like even smaller, is like a piece of something else. Yeah.
It feels like it's a Gygax word, but it's just old English, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I was like, wow, I wonder how cool I'll sound at the table when I'm like, welcome to the thwarp of something. Yeah.
And everyone's like, what are you
who is this person? Yeah. But you know what? You too can sound really smart with your players when they walk into a city.
The thesaurus is your friend. City, town, hamlet. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, the little settlements, the stakes are higher for the little ones.
It's true.
Right? Because they're more likely to get wiped out or to need to turn to a ragtag motley crew because they have no alternative. It's not like, King John is sending
right.
The army.
And there's more there are more small gatherings than there are going to be large cities, right? That's what makes a big city so unique. So it's probably more important to always have like a town in your back pocket, or I think about a city like Atlanta. I'll just use a real world scenario, right? Atlanta's really driven by the suburbs around it.
Yep.
As much as it is what's going on inside the city. Now, we're kind of unique in that regard, but I think that's probably true about like a lot of places. Like what's on the like right outside of it is almost just as important.
Maybe. I think in like high fantasy stuff where there are bands of goblins burning stuff down, there aren't that many suburbs because they get raided.
Yeah, I I'm thinking
right?
more like you're gonna need the town that is the line between you and the goblins, right? So
Right.
that's a town that the city needs. So
Oh,
there's
sure.
like an interesting balance that can be played too between like what's in the surrounding area, the smaller gathers or whatever you want to call them. Yeah.
The border towns, the Watch at the
Yep.
Wall,
Yep.
the Scottish lowlands. I don't know, all those sorts of places where people are struggling against well, the neighbors usually.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, we got some questions coming in. So this is fun. When was the moment you realized or decided that you are a forever DM? Now I joked that it was the moment I always showed up as the DM, but do you have thoughts on that? Do you consider yourself a forever DM, Wolfgang?
I well, I don't, because I am fortunate enough to have a couple of other folks around who like running games, like, I don't know,
Oh,
Steve
that's
Winter, for
nice.
instance,
That's
right?
so nice.
And so sometimes he'll say I'm running whatever, Curse of Strahd, Scarlet Citadel, Cthulhu, and I'm like, oh, I can play. Um, but and I don't know. It's one of the nice things about the game industry is like most game designers have a lot of GMing chops, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And often in multiple systems, so you get to try out something different, like, oh, let's play Cypher System, no, let's go back to D&D or whatever. But I'm fortunate in that, and I probably am somewhere near 50-50, or I don't know, 60% of the time I'm GMing, 40% playing.
Okay. Okay. So you still lean a little heavy one side. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like
Oh,
it.
definitely.
Yep. All right, this next question, I'm going to actually wrap it into a much larger question is, what can we expect in terms of how this will be released? Like, obviously, we'll get a book, right? So there'll be a
Yes.
printed copy, but this is a little, like, interesting for, like, VTT and stuff. So do we have other mediums, including possibly audio, people are asking?
Well, for Book of Ebb and Tides, we partnered with Sirenscape, right, to create a whole audio soundscape, multiple sound packs, um, for the Plane of Shadow, the Goblin City, the High Courts of the Shadow Fae. Like, they're doing the whole run of Welcome to the Plane of Shadow. Here is, what it sounds like at the portals on the Shadow
Mm.
Roads, all the sort of magical effects, audience chambers. And it would be a great thing if, in fact, we partnered with them again on this project. I don't know that that's locked
Sound,
in
yeah,
or
town
not
sounds.
locked in.
Yeah.
It's, yeah, town sounds. Oh dear. Uh, and
I
I'm
volunteer myself to do all of the like old lady ramblings in the background. Anytime you walk past and there's a crazy old lady, you all know it's Dot.
yes. I think that adds so much to immersion. And it's just fun to cue it up, especially if they're background loops that are long background loops. Um, it's an easy way
Mm.
to feel more connected. And I would like that to happen with this project, but I don't know that someone else is taking care of that, and I don't know that it's gonna happen.
Well,
It might.
um, it's still good to know that it's out there. I mean, maybe what does my grandmother always say? Put out into the universe what you want. Y'all go
Yes,
shout for it. Ask the universe for a Sirenscape cities and towns mashup.
they may already have one, right? That would be the thing that would prevent us from doing a new one. If they've got a great one, just use that.
It's pretty cool.
But yeah, well, yeah. And
Cool
I went,
possibility, I guess I should say.
yes. I want to spoil stuff from Ebon Tides, though, because there are a couple of cities there, and they're weird
Oh,
and different cities.
okay.
And these sort of play into what Campaign Builder might help with.
Oh, okay.
Or things that, if I had a copy of Campaign Builder Cities and Towns in my hands, here's how I would use it to improve a city that already exists.
Oh.
Well, okay, we've sent it to press, but the books aren't in my hands just yet.
Yet.
It's a summer release. But we've talked about Fandival, the Goblin City, before a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
We teased
Mm-hmm.
some of that, which is my attempt to design in a non-human city that would still be fun to visit and that feels very appropriate for the Plane of Shadow, right?
Oh, okay. Okay.
because it's not just humans and bear folk and shadow fae running around the plane of shadow. I mean, all of them have settlements, but the shadow goblins have been there forever. And in some sense, the shadow goblins kind of embrace the whole thing about darkness and shadow magic. And then they said at some point, you know, we're tired of being servants to the shadow fae. We're going to make our own town with, you know, blackjack and hookers, apparently.
Yeah. Smaller doors and
smaller doors and shiny temples.
Windows at our height.
And no tall people.
I'm kidding. That's not at all what it's like, everybody. This is why I need this book.
Right? Like Fandival is a weird little town where everything is built to goblin proportions and humans have to duck. They're real big into the moon goddess, and their towers to Hecate, right, are enormous temples with huge sacrifice. But it's the thing I like about it is there's a public presentation of the city, and then there's what's really going on, which is extremely shadow fae and very plane of shadow anyway, right? Like there's always, here's how I present myself, I'm awesome,
right?
You may refer to me as your highness at all times. Then there's the reality, right? I'm a gnome with some illusions and I want you guys to buy me lunch, right? So they're two different worlds, and in Fandival that's part of the fun. The high culture is we're clever and full of moon magic, and temples and priestesses make everything happen. And the reality is there's a little bit of how do I put it politely? There's a massive criminal underworld that makes everything happen. Right?
Of course, yes. You know, these goblins sound really organized. Criminal activities are not.
Well, this is organized crime, Dot. There's a reason they call it that.
I'm just saying, in comparison to most takes on the goblin establishment, which I never thought I would say.
You work for the goblin establishment,
you work for
don't
the goblin
you?
You know, the bureaucracy of goblin lifestyle. I didn't expect it would, you know, we don't usually see it that organized, I guess you could say.
Right? So these goblins are more organized than most because they did manage to build a town. But like the campaign builder supplement stuff, like there are characters, NPCs, tables, guild rules, stuff that I can slot into. Hey, this is the premise of the city. And when it comes time, I need gang members. Okay, here we go. Or I need this kind of priestess and I need that kind of merchant captain. Like there's stuff statted out, or there's directions around trade, or you know how to make your guild hooks. You know, if the shadow merchants want something, here's 10 instant hooks that draw the players in.
That's
and
nice.
So yeah, on the one hand there's the what's it look and feel like and who's in charge, and on the other hand it's, well, what do I need when it's street level and I'm just trying to run this place without making up, like, you know what I mean, like a toolbox.
That's exactly what it is. It's like, hey, here's either the house you already have, or a flat piece of foundation. Here are the tools you need to like build something really either better or stronger, or to last the wear and tear of your players.
Right. So I'm really looking forward to being able to take any settlement and apply stuff from cities and towns to make it faster to run.
Yeah, this is very, I mean, it's a really exciting thing, honestly, and stuff that, again, we don't often think about or tends to go to the wayside in our planning because we're trying to like get monster stat blocks and pull these things and stuff. But like, you know, as a GM, then you get into a city and you're like, man, I really wish I had A, or I should have thought about A, or man, they really didn't take my hook. That one happens a lot. They really didn't take my hook. Now what I'm supposed to do?
Now I need 2 more hooks. They'll take one of these.
Well, they've got to, right? They've got to, yeah. For sure. And you know what? Usually if they don't take any of the hooks, they want to protect like the lonesome sheep in the town on the way into the city, and nobody inside. They don't care anything about these city dwelling folk. They only want to save, you know, Carl the
villagers
sheep.
And shepherds. I made the mistake of putting a shepherd village in a game not that long ago, And
It's it. That's all they care about.
that's all they care about. I'm like, there are villagers in trouble here. Some of them have been captured and run off. And they're like, yeah, but what about these sheep wandering loose?
Yeah,
But
we should fix their fence. I'm like, okay.
That's good. That's a good deed, but perhaps the rampaging raiders are more of a problem. Yeah, but if we fix the fence, yeah. it's,
Yeah.
it's fun what players glom onto.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'll leave it at that. Players have a lot to glom onto here. And cities and towns, I mean, urban adventuring, running across the rooftops, every tavern adventure ever, every set of sewers ever. There's a reason they're classics.
I think that honestly, city campaigns tend to be the hardest ones to run as a GM,
Yeah.
right? Because like it's easy
totally
to
are.
like throw things in woods or in a cave, or the wilderness is vast and there's a lot of options. And that sometimes getting into a city actually, like, it will either kill their flow because now they want to do the great shopping episodes, right? Or they want to do the great shopping endeavors.
Which is fun once in a while.
Once in a while, we need to shop. We need to re-up those things that like get used and maybe find something magical along the way. But like, sometimes it can get hard to actually run a campaign in a city, which is actually one of the reasons why I think Scarlet Citadel is such a great. The top of Scarlet Citadel is so great, right there in Zobek. It's just it's such a great look at part of a campaign inside of a city.
Yes. Well, I mean, Scarlet Citadel has its own little village too. Its own thorp,
there's
right,
and then in its own thorp. Yes.
So you could start with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's the place to retreat to, and there are characters there that might be helpful or not. But yeah, the moment you go into a city, you can't just run the one-off encounter with a bunch of angry, I don't know, lizard folk. You have to. It all has to make, like, you can have angry lizard folk in the city, but then how does that make sense? And why are they here? And all of
why
those
are they
questions,
so angry?
why are they angry lizard folk? It's like, well, the fishermen have eaten all the, I don't know, right? Like, then you need to explain things, and why is it like this, and can't we just climb over the city wall to avoid the tolls? I mean,
and these are things we have all seen tried at a table. They're sorry, well, I don't want to go through the front gate. I want to climb up the 30-foot wall they've got surrounding it. Okay.
Like, well, you could.
You have no idea what kind of military they have up there or what they do to prisoners. Like, you're just assuming the best of these people. Well, this actually brings up another great question, and one that actually I'm going to kind of combine them because we've got two. So one was about thieves, guilds, and mafias, but this question also I think goes with that, which is what kind of guidance can we expect for creating secret and underground factions? What might you recommend as a third-party resource for that before this great book comes out?
There's one world-building essay. Is it world-building? Which one is cults and societies? Good Lord,
that is such a good. I used that for the Fimbulwinter campaign. That one's a really, really good one.
So Demon Cults and Secret Societies has pre-built ones with a lot of hooks and a lot of different flavors. Like there's, the vampire one, and there's sort of a Southern Explorer one, and then there's the apocalyptic one. Yes, the Undying Song is a new one. Anyway, there's a lot of pre-built cults there if you're looking for that. If you're looking to roll your own, I think one of the Kobold guides, and I'm gonna get this wrong. I think it's World Building 1.
That's the one I do have.
Is there a thing in there about building societies? I mean, I think I wrote it, and I'm embarrassed I can't remember.
That's okay. I may have to pull the PDF up. No, because I've got our Great World Building Volume 2.
Right.
By the way, there's some really good information on building religions and gods, and I just have to say, I'm going to give that another shout out because I finally finished reading it. The great joy of being sick means you can't do anything. So I got caught up on some of my readings. I thought I had a hardback, but I guess that's the monster guide. Not helpful. It's I feel like there's a couple in there. There's one on where to start building cities, or like it was like
yes.
And then I think you're right. I do not remember what it's called in full transparency.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm gonna be just embarrassed because I There it is. There's Kobold Guide to World Building. Did I write this essay? I thought I did.
Yeah.
You would think that I would.
Thanks for dropping that link in chat. If you want to check out Demo Cults and Secret Societies, like I said, highly recommended. It had, yeah, I used quite a bit of it actually when I was planning that campaign. Very good stuff.
Right. Ah, yeah, okay. How to Design a City, State, Tribe, or Nation by Wolfgang Baur is in World Building Volume 1. And Zeb Cook, the Planescape designer and second edition D&D designer, wrote something called It's a Mystery, Designing Mystery Cults in World Building Volume 1. Oh, and look at this guy. I wrote How to Design a Guild in that volume as well. So none of it is stat based. It's about what are the relationships? How do you make the hooks work? What should you consider before that? But yes, so the world building guides are definitely something I'd point people at.
And you can find all of those everywhere. We have a couple guides, right? There's like guides to monsters, there's guides to GMing, but you can get the 2 world building guides over on the Kobold Press store, koboldpress.com / I believe KP store will get you there. Or you can just hit the link that was just dropped in chat, and you can kind of go search for those. But both of them I highly recommend. Like I said, I've read the first world building, and I needed to. Now that the second one's out, that was my last read was to get caught up on that.
Yeah. So I mean, there's a lot there. For homebrewers, and I think we're going to continue that with the campaign builder.
Nice.
My hope is that people use it and immediately say, "Oh, I see," right? Like that. For some of the old guard, bits of this are going to be like, "Yeah, I knew that," but even there, the toolbox is so rich that you're going to say, oh yeah, but I use all those NPCs all the time, or I use that table of plots and rumors. And it gets you further along. There's a bunch of stuff in this book I can't talk about yet, but we'll hint at some of it in weeks to come. There is, I think, a notification page for Kickstarter. If you want to know the minute campaign builder goes live, you can get the notice saying, hey, we're live, go check it out. As I said, that's in May, so we've got at least 3 more weeks before that, but it's coming very soon, and we're kind of lining things up. And I've been seeing some of the manuscript from the designers. The editors are pretty excited. Yes, now we need to get need to figure out how big it goes and whether we can shovel a few extra goodies into it.
Oh, I'm sure everybody over on Kickstarter will assure that we shovel tons of extra stuff in there.
Right? Like it would be great to have like a city building workshop at some point. Maybe that's a thing that Kobold Press does.
You know, I thought over the next few weeks, maybe we here in chat might just build our own city. And so, like, each week we'll do like we focus on a faction this week, or we use some behind the scenes information from the book to do, I don't know, a political build.
Map.
Map or something like that. So, who knows? Stick around, everybody. You can come back over the next couple weeks. And I thought it might be fun to actually kind of put some of this into practice, because that's what's really great about the book, you know?
Yes. And it's like, well, you want it to feel like your kind of place. I mean, one of the things I like to do when starting a new campaign is just figure out, where's everybody from, right? Like, oh, you're a dwarf. Where are you from? You're a human. Where are you from? And not like, I'm from the distant desert. It's like, yeah, but really.
Right.
And then have, like, it would be great to visit their hometown. But then, of course, you've got a whole bunch of stories that come back, right? People who knew you back when, Mr. Dwarf. I remember when
they know your dirty laundry.
They know your dirty laundry. The rest of the party goes, really? Barely lift a hammer at the age of 50, huh? Some dwarf. And now look at him. But you need to sort of plan for that stuff, or have a way to hand wave and shortcut and build it on the fly quickly. And developing enough of a city to play with in, half an hour is totally doable.
It's pretty cool, actually. Man, it's kind of like having the thing you need to actually speed up your GM planning. You know, you can
Yes.
really get sidetracked, or if you're like me, you get lost down the rabbit hole of researching the history of the term thwarp. You know, and then you don't ever actually build the thwarp. So
Right.
you know, it's really nice to like. To have like a little bit of a, like as you said, it's like a guide. It's like a really handy. It's like a reference manual.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, places like Chichen Itza and the Mayan cities of the Yucatan, right? They look totally different. And part of what I like about Campaign Builder is it isn't just European stuff. There are some things about, you know, what if you want an elven city? What if you want a desert city? What does this mean for, you know, trade and
Mm,
construction? And what if you want to build a step pyramid to show your status? Um,
yeah.
putting those markers down and explaining them to players in a way that is in game is a blast.
Yeah, resource management is definitely an interesting. That idea of like, what is the currency? Because like you think of somewhere
Yes.
like Arrakis, and the currency is water, right? They
Yes.
don't care about your gold because they can't drink it or eat it. You
Right.
know, when you're in a scarcity environment, right? Which
Sure.
is way different than say a highfalutin city where you've got a lot of political figures that want silks and
Right.
you know, what they would consider expensive items, or rare
Yep.
items. That's also, you know,
Yeah.
very cool
Where
too.
status is all about who lives on the top of what hill and
Yep.
who's got these things and those, or a nomad culture like, I don't know, the Frost Elves that we've
Mm.
got coming up in Tome of Heroes. I love the Frost Elves, but it's a whole nother thing.
Frost
But
elves.
yeah, they're in Tome of Heroes. They're you know, a player character race primarily, and I want to do world building for them like now. It's like, well, if they're partly nomadic but they have seasonal settlements and they work like this
Does
and
this
this.
mean that maybe eventually we'll get a Northlands book? That'd be really jam.
Oh, wouldn't it be great to have a Northland? What an interesting idea you
That would be
proposed
so
there.
cool, Wolfgang. I'd really, really
Oh,
love
but
a
Dot,
Northlands
we
guy.
already have a Southlands book. Just reverse it, and it's
Yeah, just flip everything opposite. Just foil the whole thing. And
just
then you got the
just like
Northlands.
that. Yeah, I think it would be a fun project at some point. But yeah, cities in the north, they're smaller.
Yes,
They're
yes, yes. They have to be probably.
right. Like the huge empires of the Middle Ages were in India and China and Rome.
Yep.
Not northern.
Yep, warm. Where it could be warm. And you didn't all have to build your houses around a single fire trying to keep it alive against the
Exactly,
wind.
right?
Yeah,
It's easier to keep cool than to keep warm, I
Yep,
guess. Atlanta proves this.
it's true. I mean, look at how great I'm doing, y'all. and,
Yes.
and all clearly, I see so much sunshine.
We had snow here, but don't get me started.
Yeah, I'm so
Um,
sorry. Yeah, somebody yesterday was like, "It's snowing here." I was like, I would not know what to do if it was snowing in the middle of March.
right. Yeah, we're gonna talk about all the things for this. I should brag on some of the writers. Like,
Yeah, tell us who's involved.
well, I don't know everyone who's involved because our editorial director Thomas Reed has been leading the charge uh, on all of that. But I do know some of who's involved, and I believe some of who's involved includes Richard Green, um, who people might know from doing a huge chunk of the Midgard setting.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Sarah Madsen, I think, is in on this.
Nice.
Think I think Sebastian Rombach, who has
Oh, okay.
done a bunch of work
Yeah,
on Toma Beast 3, but here he's bringing something else.
that's pretty
Um,
cool.
yeah, I should check with Thomas before I blab the wrong names. Because he showed me some of the manuscript and I forgot to ask, well, who actually wrote
Yeah,
this
who's
bit?
putting the? Well, you know what? I will say that the hope is to have some guests on to help us maybe with this like collaborative city building thing we're gonna do for Kobold Chat. So,
Yes, I think that's a good idea.
yeah, you'll get to actually meet some of them, and then of course you'll get the expert that wrote the thing that hopefully we'll get to kind of play with and work on. So, love that.
Yes, definitely go that way. Um, yeah, this is one of those tools I feel is going to get a lot of time, but it's not a monster manual. It's not a player's guide. It's
He's his own special little thing.
yeah, it's weird. Like the campaign builder name kind of says it, right? Like, we really want to support homebrewers here. This isn't really about Midgard
Hmm.
or the Southlands or the Plane of Shadow or any particular
One
setting, right?
place, yeah.
But if you're running your Realms game, or heck, if you're running your Dark Sun Spelljammer crossover, it doesn't matter, right? If there's a city in it or a town, you should see how it applies pretty quickly.
Very excited.
Spelljammer,
Yes.
floating cities in space.
Very cool. Well, last call chat. So if you got any questions, now's a chance to toss them out there and put them out there. So I'm really interested. This is man, I just want to know what's in it. Like, I'm such such a research nerd. So this is like, oh, I get to put all my research to good use. And now it makes me want to start planning another campaign, which clearly, like, we all know, I do not need to plan another.
Sure you do.
Another
come on,
D&D campaign.
Yes.
But
just a short one.
No big deal. Just run another. Actually, you know what? While we wait on questions, we actually have an announcement. And Wolfgang, I don't know that you know this because I literally finished it up before I went to bed last night.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
What our next short run campaign here is on the channel.
Yes, please.
So I thought, what does Kobold Press do better than anybody? We make great well, we do a lot of really great things, but we make really great monsters, right?
Monsters, yes.
Really great monsters. So we're going to start a short series where instead of playing characters or players, they get to play certain types of monsters. So for the first time, we're running the Great Oozescape. Everybody will be playing oozes, and they are unknowingly escaping a dungeon they're actually a part of.
This sounds ridiculous, yes, and I'm there for it. I think it will be lots of laughs. I don't know how many ooze jokes you can make, but if this runs more than 6 episodes, I'll be impressed.
It'll be me too. I can't imagine how much. I think it's only going to be 4, but we'll see how they do. They're in the middle of Megan went through and took out all the like legendary oozes and all of the like itty bitty oozes and got me kind of this medium range, and so they're in the middle of picking their ooze right now. So I'm going to be showing off everybody how you can actually convert a monster sheet to a playable sheet for a player. Which is actually pretty cool. So I'll show you. I'm going to be showing you how to do that in Roll20 as we gear up for that in May. But I thought that was might be, and who knows, if it goes well, we'll pick a totally different kind of beast. Maybe next time we'll do giants, or maybe we'll do like, I don't know, skellies, a whole skelly.
Yes. Wow, I think this is fun.
Yeah.
It is a ton of fun. Well, that old campaign setting from like Council of Worms, right?
Yes.
That was, you're all dragons, but very small and wee.
Teeny tiny dragons, yes.
But it was a lot of fun for a sort of change up, do it differently. Oh gosh, I wrote a convention adventure years ago and everybody's a kobold in it, right?
I love that. Yeah, we just did our Kobold Jamboree where, they went to a kobold celebration for our charity event.
Yes.
Which was a lot of fun. They had to design, they got chosen at lottery and had to design the topper for this giant celebratory statue, basically. So they had to go they had to decide what the topper was going to be, which was, watching them go, was pretty wonderful. But yes, this is actually interesting, and this actually has to do with City Builder, coming from both the serious side of this question, which is, when we talk about ruling of cities, there's a lot of different political stances, viewpoints. Some run entirely like, okay, we could look at pirates, for example, right? Pirates had their own complete democracy that was all entirely theirs. That's sometimes really hard to come up with, and one of the big questions that is really active right now for games is like, how do we diversify away from kind of standard colonized civilization? How do we get out of this concept of just democracy or just a thing? So is there a section on there on like building political structures?
There's a whole chapter on politics and rulers and how people run, a free city, a hierarchical city, a elvish communism is discussed.
Okay.
No, I don't know about that.
I was going to say, elvish communism, you say. That's an interesting choice. No,
but it would be fun to think about. Yeah. I think, clan-based systems, there's there's sort of the big ones that you know, right? And then there's a couple of quirky bits in there saying, well, here are some other things to look at.
Mm-hmm.
And oh, by the way, wouldn't it be great? What does an undead city look like? Which, of course, Empire of the Ghouls had to deal with.
Right.
What if the king never goes away, basically?
Right. What if he's always there?
uh, and similar, what does it mean if you have X, Y, or Z, and how do you make it fun, and how do you make it part of the story? I think super oppressive and wrong government structures are great for gaming.
They're a great place to find trouble,
right?
and solve problems. Yeah.
Right? Like goblins, if you don't pay up, they're not happy with you, right? The bribery and corruption is part of the system, and you're not playing along.
Yeah.
Don't like it.
Gotta have that conflict, Not every city can be a commune.
No, and frankly, I think this came up in might have been in that How to Build a Nation, City, or Tribe thing in World Building Volume 1. Like, well-ruled cities or well-ruled kingdoms, they're boring.
They're
mostly
so boring. And they're usually a lie. That's the thing, is they want you to think that they're well-ruled and they have no problems. But we all know that that is not the case, because somewhere this perfect goblin city is really run by crime, like, organized crime,
Exactly. Or, this beautiful elven paradise has a whole lot of overworked halflings back in the kitchen, right?
Yeah, exactly. The thing you don't see. Yeah.
No one talks about the halflings. Okay, all right, but why? Shh.
Yeah, it's just the halflings back there doing their thing. Yeah, I think that's I would say that is probably one of the things I am most excited about is reading about how to spice up my political structures of my cities. I'm very excited about that.
I've done this a couple of times, but the trick I like is there's 2 or 3 governing structures. They don't agree with each other. And Zobek is a classic example, right? There are kings in Zobek. They're all kobolds. They have an average reign measured in weeks or months rather than years or decades, but they are kings and they rule part of Zobek. If you ask anybody what kind of government Zobek has, well, it's got a council, it's a free city, the humans are in charge. But if you ever ask a kobold, well, no, we let the humans run that part.
Right, yeah, we're not even interested in that.
Right, the important section of town, they call the ghetto, and we call the kobold section of town, right?
Right.
And we rule it completely with our own guards, taxes, and customs. So, there's no reason to make it easy, right?
Yeah.
Like, city structures can be super complicated.
And you know what, Adam? You have a good point. Communes can also have conflict. For anybody that stayed an extended amount of time on a commune, this is true. This is so super duper true. Love that. Love that.
Yes, the elves are all saying, sure, of course.
Isn't this beautiful and perfect? Yeah.
Yes, but everyone wants to be king of the bards or queen of the bards. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Great Russian proverb. Every happy family is the same. Every unhappy family is unique. May this book bring about your most unhappiest of city families so that you have unique campaigns for you and your players.
That are extremely unhappy, and the players better get on that. Fix it, dear heroes. Fix it now.
Well, as we wrap up, fill us all in. When can we expect to see the Kickstarter? What can we expect for starting price if we have that information available, just so people can gear themselves up and get ready?
Yeah, so I think this is definitely a May Kickstarter, and I would look maybe to the first 2 weeks in May rather than the last 2 weeks in May, something like that. We haven't picked the final launch date, or we haven't announced it anyway. And we're still running around in the background, making sure that everything's
Our
ready.
City looks perfect for you.
It's
even
perfect.
Though we're juggling fireballs. Yeah.
Honestly, we got an early start on this, and the writers have all been having a good time. And we have a manuscript, almost all of it. There's still things to happen. But anyway, it's coming together really well. It's gelling. We'll have a lot to show off. Price point, I'm thinking, this is a hardcover. This is at least 200 and
it's gonna be a nice big thick one.
It's a chunky one. It's not a Tome of Beasts like 400 and
I'm thinking, well, okay, I was looking at maybe Southland's World book looks about, that's a pretty,
Yeah,
maybe.
it's somewhere in that kind of range.
Yeah.
It's not super huge, but wow, it's meaty. There's a lot to it. Some of it's just very condensed because it's reference material, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we're probably looking at a $50 hardcover. If the printer quote, we're hoping there's a chance it might come a little lower, but we'll see. Um, I think it's good value for what you're getting. And I've seen some of the early art. Good Lord, it's going to be
I
pretty.
can't wait. The cover alone, that was our whole screen. You know what? Just for funsies, I'll go to at the end of the show. I'll pan back over so y'all can see it. The front cover is
Yes,
just so, it's so good.
it is.
Yes, Jay, you're right. Many words, many monies. Yes.
Yes.
But you can start prepping now. We're a couple weeks out. Like Wolfgang said, we're early. We're both early here on Kobold Chats for announcing it, and we're early in our like kind of like planning, prepping, getting ready. So
We're getting there. It's looking good. And yeah, bring on some of the other designers and see what they say.
Yeah.
What their favorite bit of design is. I think we've got some really great perspectives on, well, Richard Green, I mean, has done city design
Right,
for
so
years. Not just for Midgard, his own Parsantium setting is a sort of crossroads, kind of like a Constantinople
Oh.
kind of city, a big crossroads town with multiple cultures. And anyway, he has thought about city campaigns and run city campaigns for, I don't know, a decade, maybe more.
Yeah, for quite a while.
Yeah.
As one of the, I'm sure, many talented folks that'll be on board. So we'll have them back around
Yes.
over the next few weeks. So keep your eyes and ears peeled for more Kobold Chats. We'll be back every Wednesday. And right now, we're like I said, we're breaking open and trying to uncover some of what's going to be in this Kickstarter. So don't miss a moment of it. I was going to say there's a... Oh, thanks, Crit Witch. They said that Kobold Press sure knows how to do Kickstarter updates. We have the best around.
Yay.
Look
Yay.
at that. It's true. We will keep you up to date. And you know what? Right now, the big announcement, of course, will be when launches. And if you want to know first, here is a link in chat so that you can just go on and sign up for to get notified by email. That's all it is. Click right there, put your info in, and you'll be first to know so that you don't miss it when it launches. Because of course, we want to hit all of those stretch goals and get this pretty awesome book even more awesome.
Yes. I want this book pretty much as soon as we can manage it. But I want it to be great. So we're gonna take the time it needs. We're gonna have feedback from backers. We're gonna have previews to show. We're gonna have it's gonna be fully rocked, right? Like I can't tell you how much I appreciate the fact that we've let it gel over time. Because some of these topics, they just get better the longer you let them simmer.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's gonna be good.
Woo! Oh, I'm excited, everybody. I hope you're excited. Well, we're going to call our Kobold Chats there for the day. Thank you all so much for your questions, for your chatter in chat. It's been lots of fun today watching you all kind of talk about it. And remember, over the next few weeks, as we continue to talk a little bit more about what's happening actually in the book, we're going to put some of it into action. So if you come back in and hang out with us in chat, I think we're going to build a chat-driven city. We're going to try to put it into action and see what comes out the other side. So, show up every week and we'll be talking about a different aspect of the same city we're all kind of collaboratively building, which I think is lots of fun.
I need to get an anonymous account to heckle and chat.
You can heckle from your official account. I don't think anybody's going to stop you.
Yeah, all right. I want to see how the city building goes. I love group collaborative design. So I think that's going to be very exciting.
This will be a lot of fun. We're going to end up with a city being run by hamsters on giant wheels,
I didn't say the product would be good. I said it would be fun.
Don't stop the creativity. Yeah, don't stop the creativity. We'll see. We'll have to see how it comes out. And I know that Victoria is doing some really cool stuff with social media too over this time. So, hit up our social media. And I think there's like some interesting collaborative stuff there as well. So lots of ways for you to get involved. And remember, if you just want to keep up with what we're doing, hit a follow button here. Go hit a follow button on some of our social media. And we now have a new Discord. Boom, there's a link in chat for Discord. Go pop over and join the conversation over there in our Warrens community. That is,
I have to put out let me put out one last offer.
Oh, yeah.
we have a group called Kobold, called Jiro's official Facebook page, or Jiro's official Warrens. And I've promised people if they ask me questions there, I might answer them.
Oh, look at that. And you know what? You can grab that link just below. Or
yes.
Right here on Twitch, on the Facebook, I think there's a Facebook like button with all the other social media. That leads you straight to the page, the community page. Yep. So you can pop right on over there. Yeah, one more link for you all to go click today before your little fingers are too tired to click anymore. But we will be back, same Kobold time, same Kobold channel next week with more chatter all about our upcoming Kickstarter. And so, as promised, I will leave you all with the beautiful front cover art for this new book, Cities and Towns. Campaign Builder, Cities and Towns.
That's it.
That's it. I nailed it.
Pretty. Yes.
All right, everybody. Have a great afternoon, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.